Those were the words that made Dr. Michael Torres set down his coffee cup so carefully it barely made a sound against the saucer. He had been studying ancient Egypt for 23 years. He had walked through the Valley of the Kings more times than he could count. He had stood in Tutankhamun's burial chamber and felt the weight of 3,000 years pressing down on him from every painted wall. But nothing in his decades of research had prepared him for a 6-year-old girl from Seattle sitting cross-legged on his office floor, calmly explaining where the most sought-after tomb in archaeological history had been hiding all along. The girl's name was Olivia. She had just turned 6 years old 3 weeks before that meeting, though her mother would later say that Olivia had never really felt like a normal 6-year-old. There was something about the way she looked at things, something about the questions she asked, something about the drawings she had been making since her fingers were first strong enough to hold a crayon. This is not a story about archaeology. Not really. This is a story about a little girl who knew something she should not have known, who drew something she should not have been able to draw, and who spoke about a queen dead for over 3,000 years as if she had just seen her yesterday. This is the story of Olivia, and what she remembers about Nefertiti. The first time Jennifer Chen noticed something unusual about her daughter was 3 days after Olivia's 2nd birthday. They were in the children's section of the Seattle Public Library, surrounded by picture books about farm animals and counting games, when Olivia wandered away from the colorful displays and found herself standing in front of a poster advertising an upcoming exhibition at the Seattle Art Museum. The poster showed the famous painted bust of Nefertiti, the one with the tall blue crown and the elegant neck and the single eye that seems to follow you wherever you move. Olivia stood there for almost 10 minutes, completely motionless, while Jennifer searched through the shelves wondering where her daughter had gone. When Jennifer finally found her, Olivia was crying. Not the frustrated tears of a toddler who wanted something she could not have. These were different tears. Quiet tears. The kind of tears that adults cry when they remember someone they loved who is no longer there. "Mama," Olivia said, pointing at the poster. "Her. I miss her." Jennifer remembered feeling confused by that word. Miss. How could a 2-year-old miss someone she had never met? How could a toddler in Seattle, Washington feel longing for an Egyptian queen who had been dead for over 3 millennia? She assumed it was just a phase. Children become obsessed with things all the time. Dinosaurs, unicorns, cartoon characters. She figured Olivia had simply decided that the beautiful woman on the poster was interesting, the way children find things interesting, and that the fixation would fade within a few weeks. It did not fade. By the time Olivia was 3 years old, her bedroom walls were covered with drawings of the same woman. Over and over again, in crayon and marker and finger paint, Olivia drew a figure with a tall headdress and a long neck, and what Jennifer could only describe as sad eyes. The drawings were crude at first, the way all 3-year-old drawings are crude. But there was something consistent about them, something intentional. Olivia was not just scribbling, she was trying to capture something specific, something she could see clearly in her mind. "She always wears blue," Olivia explained one afternoon when Jennifer asked about the drawings. "And gold. She likes gold because it reminds her of the sun." The sun was very important. It was the most important thing. Jennifer asked who the woman was. Olivia looked at her mother with an expression that seemed almost pitying, as if Jennifer had asked a question with an obvious answer. "You know who she is, Mama. Everyone knows. She is the most beautiful. Jennifer did not know what to make of these statements. She mentioned them to her pediatrician, who smiled and said that children often develop vivid imaginary relationships with figures they see in books or on television. It was nothing to worry about. Olivia was healthy, meeting all her developmental milestones, and seemed happy despite her unusual preoccupation. But Jennifer could not shake the feeling that something else was happening. Something she did not understand. The dreams started when Olivia was 4. Or rather, that was when Olivia first started talking about them. Jennifer would find her daughter sitting up in bed at 2 or 3 in the morning, wide awake, with a peculiar expression on her face. "I was there again," Olivia would say. "I was walking in the palace. The floors were so smooth, cold on my feet. And she was there, sitting on her chair, and she smiled at me. She always smiles when she sees me. She said I was her favorite." Jennifer asked what palace, what chair, what favorite meant. Olivia's answers were always specific, impossibly specific. The palace by the river. Not the big river that everyone knows, the other one. The one that comes from the big river but goes to her city. The city she built. It had a name that meant something about light, about the sun rising. She built it because she wanted to start again. She wanted everything to be new. Jennifer had never heard of any of this. She had never studied ancient Egypt beyond what most Americans learn in elementary school. She did not know about the city of Akhetaten, built by Nefertiti and her husband Akhenaten as a new capital dedicated to the worship of a single god. She did not know about the canals that connected the city to the Nile. She did not know about the revolutionary religious reforms that had made Nefertiti one of the most powerful queens in Egyptian history. But Olivia seemed to know all of it. And she spoke about it not as historical fact, but as personal memory. "The throne was different from the other ones," Olivia explained one morning over breakfast, as casually as if she were describing what happened at preschool the day before. "The other pharaohs had thrones with lions. Hers had the sun with rays coming down, and at the end of each ray there was a little hand, like the sun was reaching down to touch everything, to bless everything." Jennifer looked up the imagery later that day. The Aten disk, with rays ending in hands, was the central symbol of Akhenaten and Nefertiti's religious revolution. It appeared in virtually every piece of art from their reign, and there was no way a 4-year-old from Seattle should have known about it. That was when Jennifer started keeping a journal. Every time Olivia said something about her dreams, about the woman she called the most beautiful, about the palace and the river and the city of light, Jennifer wrote it down. At first, she told herself she was doing it so she could share the entries with Olivia's pediatrician, or maybe with a child psychologist if things progressed. But somewhere in the back of her mind, Jennifer was starting to wonder if her daughter was remembering something real. The drawings evolved as Olivia got older. By age 5, they had become remarkably detailed. Olivia would spend hours at the kitchen table with her colored pencils, working with an intensity that seemed almost adult. She drew columns covered in hieroglyphics. She drew gardens with rectangular pools surrounded by sycamore trees. She drew rooms with painted ceilings, showing birds flying through fields of blue. She drew Nefertiti over and over again. But now, the drawings showed specific scenes, specific moments. There was one drawing that Jennifer found particularly disturbing. It showed Nefertiti lying on what appeared to be a bed, surrounded by people wearing white robes. Her eyes were closed. Her hands were folded across her chest. and standing at the foot of the bed was a young boy wearing the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. "He was so sad," Olivia said when Jennifer asked about the drawing. "He was the saddest I ever saw him. He loved her more than anyone. She was like his mother, even though she was not really his mother. When she died, he wanted to put her somewhere safe, somewhere no one would ever disturb her, somewhere she could rest forever." Jennifer asked who the boy was. Olivia seemed surprised by the question. "Tutankhamun," she said, as if the answer were obvious. "He was Pharaoh after her husband died. He was just a little boy when he became Pharaoh. But he remembered everything. He remembered how kind she was to him, and when it was time to bury her, he made sure she would be protected." "How did he protect her?" Jennifer asked. Olivia smiled. The same smile Jennifer had seen on her daughter's face in hundreds of these conversations. The smile that seemed to hold secrets 3,000 years old. "He put her behind him, so that anyone who wanted to hurt her would have to go through him first. He was not a strong pharaoh. He died very young. But he did that one thing. He made sure she was safe." Jennifer felt something cold move through her chest when she heard those words. She did not know why. She did not understand the significance of what her daughter was saying. But she knew, with a certainty she could not explain, that Olivia was not making this up. Something was trying to be remembered. The meeting with Dr. Michael Torres happened because of a coincidence, or what appeared to be a coincidence. Jennifer did not believe in fate or destiny or any of those concepts that seem to belong in movies rather than real life. But when she saw the flyer for Dr. Torres's lecture at the University of Washington, she felt something pull at her. Something that said she needed to be there. The lecture was titled "The Lost Queen: New Theories on the Location of Nefertiti's Tomb." Jennifer did not tell Olivia where she was going that evening. She hired a babysitter and drove to the university alone, her heart beating faster than it should have been for an academic lecture. Dr. Torres was a careful speaker, precise. He did not make claims he could not support. He walked the audience through the history of the search for Nefertiti's final resting place. He explained how most Egyptologists believed she was buried in the royal tomb at Akhetaten, the city she and her husband had built. But that tomb had been found empty, looted centuries before modern archaeologists arrived. Others, Dr. Torres explained, believed that Nefertiti might have been buried in the Valley of the Kings. There was a mummy designated KV35YL, sometimes called the Younger Lady, that some researchers believed might be Nefertiti. But the identification was controversial, and even if correct, it did not explain where Nefertiti's tomb itself might be located. Then Dr. Torres mentioned something that made Jennifer's breath catch in her throat. In 2015, he said, a British Egyptologist named Nicholas Reeves published a theory that stunned the archaeological world. Using high-resolution scans of the walls in Tutankhamun's burial chamber, Reeves identified what appeared to be hidden doorways. Doorways that had been plastered over and painted 3,000 years ago. Doorways that might lead to chambers no one had entered since the tomb was first sealed. Reeves believed, Dr. Torres continued, that these hidden chambers might contain the burial of Nefertiti herself. His theory proposed that Tutankhamun's tomb was originally built for someone else, someone more important, and that when Tutankhamun died unexpectedly young, he was buried in the outer chambers of a tomb that had been prepared for the great queen. Jennifer felt dizzy. She gripped the armrests of her seat and tried to control her breathing. Subsequent scans, Dr. Torres said, produced inconclusive results. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities eventually declared that no hidden chambers existed. The theory was dismissed by most mainstream Egyptologists, but some researchers, myself included, believe the question remains open. The technology used in later scans may not have been sensitive enough to detect voids in the rock. The doorways Reeves identified are still visible to anyone who looks at the walls carefully. And the possibility remains that behind Tutankhamun, hidden for 33 centuries, Nefertiti waits to be found. Jennifer did not remember driving home that night. She did not remember paying the babysitter or checking on Olivia or getting ready for bed. She only remembered lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, hearing her daughter's voice echo in her mind. He put her behind him, so that anyone who wanted to hurt her would have to go through him first. She contacted Dr. Torres the next day. She expected to be ignored. A stranger sending an email about her daughter's strange obsession with ancient Egypt. Why would a university professor respond to something like that? But Dr. Torres did respond. Within hours. He said he would be happy to meet with Jennifer and Olivia at his earliest convenience. He said he had learned, over his years studying ancient Egypt, that knowledge sometimes came from unexpected places. He said he had no expectations about what they might discuss, but he was curious. He was always curious. That was how Olivia ended up sitting on the floor of Dr. Torres's office 3 weeks later, spreading out her drawings while her mother watched, and the professor leaned forward in his chair with an expression that grew more troubled with every page. There were over 200 drawings. Jennifer had brought all of them, organized chronologically from Olivia's earliest crayon scribbles to her most recent detailed renderings. Dr. Torres studied each one carefully. He asked Olivia questions about specific elements. He took notes on a yellow legal pad, and several times Jennifer noticed he had to stop and compose himself before continuing. The turning point came when Olivia unfolded a large piece of paper that she had been working on for several weeks. It was the most complex drawing she had ever made. It showed what appeared to be a cross-section of a tomb, as if someone had sliced through the rock and looked at the interior from the side. There were multiple chambers, passageways connecting them, a large room in the center with what looked like a sarcophagus, and behind that room, separated by a wall shown with dotted lines to indicate it was hidden, another chamber, smaller, but just as detailed. In the hidden chamber, Olivia had drawn a figure lying in a golden coffin, a figure wearing a tall blue crown. Dr. Torres stared at the drawing for a long time without speaking. When he finally looked up, his face had changed. The professional detachment was gone. In its place was something Jennifer could only describe as recognition. "Olivia," he said quietly, "where did you learn to draw this?" "I did not learn it," Olivia said. "I remember it. You remember being in this place?" "No," Olivia shook her head. "I was not there when they built it. I was already gone by then, but I remember talking about it. I remember when they decided where to put her. There were a lot of arguments. Some people wanted her in the city, in the place she built. But he said no. He said she had to be with the family. She had to be in the valley. And she had to be hidden because people were already starting to hate her. People were starting to destroy her images, break her statues, scratch her name off the walls." Olivia paused. Her small face was thoughtful, sad. He did not want that to happen to her body. He wanted her to rest peacefully forever. So he made them build her chamber behind his. And then he made them hide the door. Paint over it. Make it look like there was nothing there, so that if anyone ever found his tomb, They would think it was just his tomb. They would not know she was there, waiting. Jennifer watched Dr. Torres's hands tremble slightly as he turned back to the drawing. "Olivia," he said, "can you show me exactly where you think this hidden chamber is? In relation to Tutankhamun's tomb?" Olivia nodded. She took a fresh piece of paper and began to draw. But this drawing was different from the others. It was not a cross-section. It was a map. A floor plan showing the layout of Tutankhamun's tomb from above. She drew the descending corridor, the antechamber, the annex, the burial chamber, the treasury. Every room in its correct position, its correct proportion. And then, on the western wall of the burial chamber, she drew a doorway that did not appear on any official map. A doorway leading to a chamber that extended beyond the boundaries of the known tomb. A chamber with its own annex, its own small treasury, its own burial vault. "She is here," Olivia said, pointing to the hidden chamber. "She has been here the whole time. For 3,000 years she has been waiting. She is not lost. She was never lost. She is just hidden. And she is getting tired of waiting. She wants to be found." Dr. Torres did not speak for almost a minute after Olivia finished her drawing. He sat in his chair, staring at the paper, breathing slowly and deliberately, as if trying to control some powerful emotion. Then he turned to his computer and pulled up a series of images Jennifer did not recognize. They were technical scans of some kind, data visualizations showing variations in rock density. And in several of them, there were anomalies. Patches of different color indicating empty spaces where the surrounding rock was solid. "These are the scans from 2015, Dr. Torres said quietly. "The ones that Nicholas Reeves used to propose his theory about hidden chambers." He overlaid Olivia's drawing on top of the scans. The match was not perfect. Olivia's drawing was, after all, the work of a 6-year-old. The proportions were slightly off, the angles not quite right, but the location of the hidden doorway, the position of the concealed chamber, the basic architecture of what Olivia had drawn. It matched. It matched the anomalies in the scans almost exactly. Dr. Torres turned to look at Jennifer. His face was pale. "Has Olivia ever seen these scans before?" he asked. "Has she ever looked at any technical papers about Reeves's theory? Any news articles? Any documentaries?" Jennifer shook her head. "She barely knows how to use a computer," she said. "She certainly has not been reading academic papers about radar tomography." Dr. Torres nodded slowly. He looked at Olivia, who was calmly adding more details to her drawing, apparently unconcerned by the tension in the room. "Olivia," he said, "you said that she is getting tired of waiting, that she wants to be found. How do you know that?" Olivia did not look up from her drawing. "Because she tells me," she said simply. "In my dreams. She comes to me and she talks to me. She says she has been sleeping for a long time, and she is ready to wake up. She says she has things to say, stories to tell. She says the world forgot too much about her. They remember her face. Everyone knows her face. But they forgot everything else. They forgot what she did, what she believed, what she tried to build." Olivia finally looked up. Her eyes, brown and serious and impossibly old, met Dr. Torres's gaze. She says she is not angry about being hidden. She understands why he did it. He was trying to protect her, and it worked. For 3,000 years, no one found her. No one disturbed her. She rested peacefully, just like he wanted. But now it is time. She says I am the one who is supposed to help. I do not know how. I am just a little kid. But she says, I will understand when I am older. She says, I will know what to do. Dr. Torres leaned back in his chair. He looked like a man whose entire understanding of the world had just been rearranged. Jennifer, he said, I need to tell you something, but I want you to understand that I am not a person who believes things easily. I have spent my career demanding evidence, requiring proof, dismissing claims that cannot be verified. He paused, collected himself. But I have also spent my career listening, paying attention to things that other researchers dismiss. And what your daughter knows, what she has drawn, what she describes with such specific detail, I cannot explain it. I have no rational framework for understanding how a 6-year-old girl from Seattle could know the precise location of a hidden chamber that some of us have been searching for our entire careers. He looked at Olivia again. She had gone back to her drawing, adding tiny hieroglyphics to the walls of the hidden chamber. Hieroglyphics that, Jennifer would later learn, correctly identified the occupant as Neferuatin Nefertiti, great royal wife, lady of all women. I do not know what this means, Dr. Torres said. I do not know how to proceed. But I know this. Your daughter is not making this up. She believes what she is saying with absolute conviction. And more troubling than that, more challenging than that, is that everything she believes appears to align with physical evidence that was dismissed years ago by researchers who could not accept what it seemed to show. He stood up from his desk and walked to his window, looking out at the campus below. The scan results from 2015 were not actually inconclusive, he said quietly. They showed exactly what Reeves predicted. Voids in the rock, empty spaces where there should have been solid stone, a possible doorway on the northern wall, and another on the western wall, exactly where Olivia drew it. Why did they say there were no chambers? Jennifer asked. Dr. Torres sighed. Politics. Fear. The implications of finding Nefertiti's tomb are enormous. It would rewrite our understanding of the 18th dynasty. It would raise questions about how she died, why she was hidden, what happened in the final years of her reign. And it would bring millions of tourists and researchers to a site that is already struggling to preserve itself. He turned back to face Jennifer and Olivia. But none of that changes what the evidence shows. None of that changes what your daughter seems to know. And none of that changes the fact that 3,000 years ago, a young pharaoh who loved his stepmother made a decision to hide her from a world that was trying to erase her memory. He knelt down next to Olivia, who looked up from her drawing with curious eyes. Can you tell me more about the dreams? He asked gently. What does she look like when she comes to talk to you? Olivia smiled. The same sad, knowing smile that Jennifer had seen so many times before. She looks tired, Olivia said. Not in a bad way. Just like someone who has been resting for a long time and is ready to get up. Her crown is still blue. Her eyes are still beautiful. But she does not wear the gold anymore. She says you do not need gold where she is. She says you do not need anything except what you remember. What does she remember? Everything. Olivia's voice was soft, almost reverent. She remembers building the city. She remembers the day they moved the capital. She remembers carrying the first offerings to the new temple. She remembers how the light looked coming through the columns at dawn. She remembers being happy. Really, truly happy. Happier than anyone in the world. And she remembers when it ended, Olivia continued. When her husband died. When the priests convinced everyone. that what they had built was wrong. When they started tearing down her temples, chipping away her face from the walls, she remembers watching everything she loved being destroyed. And she remembers deciding that she did not care, that it did not matter what they did to the stones, that the truth would survive, that someday someone would remember. "She said that to you?" Dr. Torres asked. "In your dreams," Olivia nodded. "She says that is why I can see her. Because I am one of the people who remembers. She says there are others. Not many, but some. People who lived during her time and who carry pieces of it with them into each new life. She says we are like seeds. We blow around in the wind for thousands of years, but we always carry what we knew with us. And sometimes, when the conditions are right, we start to grow. We start to remember." She looked at her drawing one more time. She says, "I will help her wake up. I will be part of the team that finds her. I do not know when." She says, "I have to grow up first. I have to learn things. Study. Become someone who can go to Egypt and look for her." Olivia's eyes were shining. But she says she will wait. She has waited 3,000 years. She can wait a little longer. As long as she knows that someone remembers. As long as she knows that someone is coming. Dr. Torres stayed in contact with the Chen family after that meeting. He became, in a sense, Olivia's unofficial mentor. He sent her books about ancient Egypt, appropriate for her age, but gradually becoming more sophisticated as she grew older. He answered her questions, encouraged her curiosity, and treated her knowledge with the respect he would give any promising young scholar. He also continued his own research. Quietly, carefully. He could not go public with what Olivia had told him. A university professor, claiming to have found Nefertiti's tomb based on a 6-year-old's drawings and dreams, would become a laughingstock. His career would be over. Everything he had built would be destroyed. But he could continue analyzing the scan data. He could publish papers suggesting that the 2015 results deserved another look. He could advocate, cautiously, for new investigations of the western wall of Tutankhamun's burial chamber, and he could wait. Olivia is 12 years old now. She reads Egyptian hieroglyphics fluently. She can translate Middle Egyptian texts that give graduate students trouble. She spends hours every week studying the geography of the Valley of the Kings, memorizing the locations of every tomb, every shaft, every unexplored anomaly. The dreams have not stopped. If anything, they have become more detailed, more vivid, more insistent. She is getting impatient, Olivia told Dr. Torres during their most recent video call. Not angry, just ready. She says the world is changing. People are starting to remember things they forgot. Old knowledge is coming back, and she wants to be part of it. She wants to tell her story. Dr. Torres asked what story that was. Olivia was quiet for a moment. Her face, no longer the face of a little girl, but the face of a young woman beginning to understand the weight of what she carried, was thoughtful. The story of what they tried to do, she said finally. Her and her husband. They tried to change everything. They tried to teach people that there was only one God, the sun, the light that gives life to everything. They said the old gods were not real. They said the temples were full of lies. They said people did not need priests to talk to the divine. They could feel the sun on their skin and know that God was there. She paused. People hated them for it. The priests, the nobles, everyone who had power because of the old ways. When her husband died, they destroyed everything he built. They erased his name from history. They went to the city he made and tore it apart, stone by stone. And her name too, Olivia said. They erased her name. They smashed her statues. They scratched her face off the walls. For almost 3,000 years, nobody even knew she existed. Olivia's eyes were fierce now, determined. But then they found the bust, the one in Germany. And suddenly, everyone knew her face again. The most beautiful face in the world, people called it. Museums made copies, posters, books. Her face became one of the most famous images on Earth. But still nobody knows her, Olivia said. They know her face. They do not know her story. They do not know what she believed, what she fought for, what she was willing to lose. She says that is what she wants to change. She wants people to know who she really was, not just the beautiful queen, not just the famous bust, but the woman who tried to change the world, the woman who almost succeeded, the woman who was erased from history and buried in secret and forgotten for millennia. She wants to be remembered. All of her. Not just the parts that look good on a museum poster. Dr. Torres listened to all of this without interrupting. When Olivia finished, he was quiet for a long time. "Do you believe her?" he finally asked. "Everything she tells you in the dreams? Do you believe it is real?" Olivia did not hesitate. "I know it is real," she said. "I do not believe it. Belief is for things you are not sure about. I know. The way I know my own name. The way I know what my mother's voice sounds like. It is not something I have to think about. It is just part of me. It always has been." She looked directly at the camera, directly at Dr. Torres. "And someday," she said, "I am going to prove it. I am going to find her. I am going to open that chamber and show the world that she was never lost. She was just waiting. Waiting for someone who remembered. Waiting for someone who could hear her calling through 3,000 years of silence. Waiting for me." The story of Olivia Chen does not have an ending yet. She is still growing up, still learning, still preparing for the journey she believes she was born to make. She ruled as an equal beside a pharaoh. They erased her from history, but her face survives. Her name survives. And in the dreams of a child from Seattle, her voice survives, telling her story, sharing her memories, waiting for the world to finally listen. Some secrets keep themselves for 3,000 years. They hide in plain sight, waiting for the right person to see them. They speak in whispers so soft that only certain ears can hear. Olivia Chen has been hearing those whispers since before she could speak. She has been seeing those secrets since before she could understand what they meant. And she carries within her knowledge that she should not possess, memories that she should not have, and a mission that has been waiting for someone to accept it since a young pharaoh sealed a hidden door and hoped that someday, when the world was ready, someone would find the courage to open it again. That door remains sealed. The chamber remains hidden. The queen remains waiting. But for the first time in 3,300 years, someone knows exactly where to look, and she is getting ready to prove it.